Welcome to our Business English podcast. Today, we're diving into the essentials of planning a successful corporate event. Monica, as the HR manager, could you explain why hosting an annual networking event is so important for companies?
Absolutely. Annual networking events foster interdepartmental collaboration and strengthen company culture. Studies from Harvard Business Review suggest such events boost employee retention by 24%. Moreover, they provide a platform for employees to connect informally, which often leads to innovative ideas.
That's a compelling argument. Before we get into the nuts and bolts, how do you usually define the event's scope and objectives at the initial stage?
It's crucial to align the event's purpose with company goals. For example, is the aim to celebrate achievements, onboard new clients, or encourage cross-team networking? Setting clear objectives helps streamline the planning process and measure success later on.
Once the objectives are clear, the next logical step is choosing the right date. Daniel, what factors do you consider when proposing a date for a company-wide event?
Great question. I analyze company calendars, project deadlines, and major holidays to avoid conflicts. For instance, scheduling during the third week of June might bypass peak vacation periods and fiscal year-end stress.
And how do you ensure everyone is on board with the proposed date?
I typically send a poll to key stakeholders and include alternative dates. This collaborative approach increases participation and minimizes last-minute rescheduling.
Moving forward, let's discuss one of the most critical decisions, venue selection. Monica, how do you balance logistical needs with creating the right atmosphere?
I weigh factors like location accessibility, capacity, and technical facilities. For a networking event, an open layout encourages mingling. A 2022 Eventbrite report found that 63% of attendees rate venue ambiance as key to overall satisfaction.
That's interesting. Do you ever consider unconventional venues, or do you prefer traditional conference spaces?
It depends on the event's tone. For formal gatherings, hotels or business centers work best, but for creative industries, art galleries, or rooftop gardens can make the event more memorable.
Now, let's shift to the guest list. Daniel, what's your methodology for compiling and verifying attendees for a corporate function?
I start by identifying core invitees based on objectives employees, key clients, and potential partners. I use a checklist to avoid overlaps or omissions. To confirm, I send digital RSVPs and track responses using event management software.
Are there best practices for following up with non-respondents?
Definitely. A polite reminder email, sent a week after the initial invitation, usually yields a 20% higher response rate, according to MailChimp analytics.
Delegating tasks efficiently is critical to prevent bottlenecks. Monica, could you outline how you assign roles among the planning team?
Of course. I match team members' strengths to tasks, for example, assigning a detail-oriented colleague to manage the guest list and a creative thinker to oversee decor. Clear delegation prevents confusion and ensures accountability.
How do you formalize these assignments?
I document responsibilities in a shared project plan and review them in a kickoff meeting. This transparency helps everyone understand their deliverables and deadlines.
Let's talk about structuring the event itself. Daniel, what's your approach to creating a balanced agenda and timeline?
I allocate time for networking, keynote speeches, and interactive segments. I use the golden ratio 1/3 formal presentations, 2/3 networking to maximize engagement. Timelines are mapped out in 15-minute increments using scheduling tools.
Do you build in contingency time for unexpected issues?
Absolutely. I always include buffer slots to accommodate delays. This flexibility is essential for keeping the event on track without rushing or cutting content.
Logistics can make or break an event. Monica, could you walk us through the process of selecting catering and audiovisual setups?
Certainly. I compare vendor options based on quality, menu diversity, and budget. For AV, I ensure the venue supports our technical requirements projectors, microphones, and Wi-Fi. I also develop a backup plan in case of equipment failure or catering issues.
Could you provide a hypothetical scenario where a contingency plan saved the day?
Once, a caterer backed out last minute, but thanks to an established list of alternates, we secured a replacement in hours, avoiding disruption.
Let's focus on language. Daniel, What formal expressions do you find most effective for making suggestions and confirming details in meetings?
Phrases like, shall we consider? Would you be able to? And could you confirm? Foster collaboration while maintaining professionalism. Using polite requests rather than direct commands helps build rapport, especially in multicultural teams.
How do you handle disagreements or negotiate changes diplomatically?
I recommend acknowledging the other person's viewpoint first, then proposing alternatives with phrases like, may I suggest another approach? This keeps the conversation constructive and solution-focused.
Maintaining momentum is essential. Monica, how do you ensure that progress is tracked and deadlines are met throughout the planning process?
I rely on digital project management tools like Asana or Trello to assign tasks and set reminders. Regular check-in meetings weekly or bi-weekly allow us to address roadblocks early and reallocate resources if needed.
Is there a formal way you update stakeholders on progress?
Yes, I send summary emails after each meeting, highlighting completed milestones and upcoming tasks. This keeps everyone aligned and accountable.
To round off, let's invite our listeners to participate. Daniel, what's a practical exercise they can do to reinforce today's content?
I suggest listeners draft their own event planning dialogue, incorporating at least 5 formal expressions we discussed, like, let's finalize, could you confirm, and would you be able to?
And for those seeking extra practice, what about role-playing?
Great idea. Pair up with a friend or colleague, assign responsibilities, and use polite follow-ups. Practicing these scenarios builds confidence and fluency for real-world meetings.